안녕하세요. 50살에 시작하는 10분 영어입니다. 이번 영상은 어떤 상황이나 사람 혹은 문제, 감정을 완전히 막을 수는 없지만 최대한 노력해서 하지 않으려고 할 때 사용하는 표현입니다. 무엇을 피하려고 해라는 의미의 try to avoid입니다. 이근어는 받지만 신경 안 쓰는 것이고 avoid는 아예 마주치지 않는 것을 의미합니다. try to avoid로 시작하는 기초생활영어 30문장을 듣고 따라해 보세요. 채널 구독과 좋아요는 다음 영상 제작에 큰 도움이 됩니다. 문장별 4번씩 반복합니다.
Listen and repeat. Number 1.
그건 피하려고 해봐.
Try to avoid it.
Try to avoid it.
Try to avoid it.
Try to avoid it. Number 2.
나는 갈등을 피하려고 해.
I try to avoid conflict.
I try to avoid conflict.
I try to avoid conflict.
I try to avoid conflict. Number 3.
나는 실수를 피하려고 해.
I try to avoid mistakes.
I try to avoid mistakes.
I try to avoid mistakes.
I try to avoid mistakes. Number 4.
그녀는 그를 피하려고 해.
She tries to avoid him.
She tries to avoid him.
She tries to avoid him.
She tries to avoid him. Number 5.
그는 문제를 피하려고 해.
He tries to avoid trouble.
He tries to avoid trouble.
He tries to avoid trouble.
He tries to avoid trouble. Number 6.
나는 정크푸드를 피하려고 해.
I try to avoid junk food.
I try to avoid junk food.
I try to avoid junk food.
I try to avoid junk food. Number 7.
나는 스트레스를 피하려고 해.
I try to avoid stress.
I try to avoid stress.
I try to avoid stress.
I try to avoid stress. Number 8.
그들은 말다툼을 피하려고 해.
They try to avoid arguments.
They try to avoid arguments.
They try to avoid arguments.
They try to avoid arguments. Number 9.
나는 과하게 생각하지 않으려고 해.
I try to avoid overthinking.
I try to avoid overthinking.
I try to avoid overthinking.
I try to avoid overthinking. Number 10.
그녀는 드라마를 피하려고 해.
She tries to avoid drama.
She tries to avoid drama.
She tries to avoid drama.
She tries to avoid drama. Number 11.
우리는 지연을 피하려고 해.
We try to avoid delays.
We try to avoid delays.
We try to avoid delays.
We try to avoid delays. Number 12.
나는 눈 마주치는 걸 피하려고 해.
I try to avoid eye contact.
I try to avoid eye contact.
I try to avoid eye contact.
I try to avoid eye contact. Number 13.
나는 붐비는 곳을 피하려고 해.
I try to avoid crowds.
I try to avoid crowds.
I try to avoid crowds.
I try to avoid crowds. Number 14.
나는 나쁜 습관을 피하려고 해.
I try to avoid bad habits.
I try to avoid bad habits.
I try to avoid bad habits.
I try to avoid bad habits. Number 15.
나는 늦지 않으려고 해.
I try to avoid being late.
I try to avoid being late.
I try to avoid being late.
I try to avoid being late. Number 16.
나는 교통체증을 피하려고 해.
I try to avoid traffic.
I try to avoid traffic.
I try to avoid traffic.
I try to avoid traffic. Number 17.
나는 부정적인 사람을 피하려고 해.
I try to avoid negative people.
I try to avoid negative people.
I try to avoid negative people.
I try to avoid negative people. Number 18.
나는 건강하지 않은 음식을 피하려고 해.
I try to avoid unhealthy food.
I try to avoid unhealthy food.
I try to avoid unhealthy food.
I try to avoid unhealthy food. Number 19.
나는 위험한 선택을 피하려고 해.
I try to avoid risky choices.
I try to avoid risky choices.
I try to avoid risky choices.
I try to avoid risky choices. Number 20.
나는 시간 낭비를 피하려고 해.
I try to avoid wasting time.
I try to avoid wasting time.
I try to avoid wasting time.
I try to avoid wasting time. Number 21.
나는 아프지 않으려고 해.
I try to avoid getting sick.
I try to avoid getting sick.
I try to avoid getting sick.
I try to avoid getting sick. Number 22.
나는 추운 날씨를 피하려고 해.
I try to avoid cold weather.
I try to avoid cold weather.
I try to avoid cold weather.
I try to avoid cold weather. Number 23.
나는 시끄러운 곳을 피하려고 해.
I try to avoid loud places.
I try to avoid loud places.
I try to avoid loud places.
I try to avoid loud places. Number 24.
나는 민감한 주제를 피하려고 해.
I try to avoid sensitive topics.
I try to avoid sensitive topics.
I try to avoid sensitive topics.
I try to avoid sensitive topics. Number 25.
나는 변명하는 걸 피하려고 해.
I try to avoid making excuses.
I try to avoid making excuses.
I try to avoid making excuses.
I try to avoid making excuses. Number 26.
나는 사람들에게 상처 주지 않으려 해.
I try to avoid hurting people.
I try to avoid hurting people.
I try to avoid hurting people.
I try to avoid hurting people. Number 27.
나는 집중력을 잃지 않으려 해.
I try to avoid losing focus.
I try to avoid losing focus.
I try to avoid losing focus.
I try to avoid losing focus. Number 28.
나는 너무 많이 생각하지 않으려 해.
I try to avoid thinking too much.
I try to avoid thinking too much.
I try to avoid thinking too much.
I try to avoid thinking too much. Number 29.
그는 그 얘기를 피하려고 했어.
He tried to avoid talking about it.
He tried to avoid talking about it.
He tried to avoid talking about it.
He tried to avoid talking about it. Number 30.
나는 직장에서 갈등을 피하려고 해.
I try to avoid conflict at work.
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 50살에 시작하는 10분 영어. 채널 구독과 좋아요는 영상 제작에 큰 도움이 됩니다. 감사합니다.